2019 ASEAN-KOREA Commemorative Summit in Busan. Our starting point this morning is last night's welcoming dinner banquet for the leaders of the ASEAN leaders participating in the ASEAN Republic of Korea Summit in Busan. President Moon Jae-in said the gathering will show the world that all participating nations are dreaming as one community. He added that ASEAN is at a crucial juncture as it takes a next leap on the foundation of relations that date back 30 years. He also said that while all member states are different, they can build close cooperation through mutual understanding. Now let's get more details on the grand welcoming dinner banquet in Busan for the leaders of the ASEAN member states. Our Kim Da-mi has the highlights.
With its fusion of tradition and cutting-edge technologies, the welcoming dinner banquet was more than a dinner but rather a symbol of unity in diversity. A hologram of a large bronze bell from Korea's Silla dynasty known as the Bell of King Seongdeok welcomed each leader with a toll as President Moon and the First Lady greeted guests. The four-course dinner included rice cake dessert made with rice produced in all 10 ASEAN countries, respecting their diversity and their similar roots, which is symbolized by the country's staple food. While the dishes symbolize the prosperity and harmony of Southeast Asian nations, the cultural performances highlighted peace and hope. South Korea's leading display technology beautifully mastered each country's traditional dances. And 5G technology and motion capture further mesmerized the leaders and 300 other guests with mixed reality technology where reality and virtual reality coexist. Local magician Lee In-geul also spoke about the power of hope, saying that hope can spread to everyone in the blink of an eye. A joint orchestra consisting of South Koreans and musicians from ASEAN countries further lifted the atmosphere of peace between the 10 ASEAN nations with their diverse voices and instruments. Leaders' dinner banquets are often private affairs, but South Korea's presidential office publicized the dinner this time, noting that President Moon and the ASEAN-KOREA Commemorative Summit are for the people. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
Now, as you would expect, President Moon Jae-in was much busier than usual on Monday, holding meetings with a whole host of visiting leaders. That included his counterparts from Thailand, Indonesia and the Philippines. According to our Park Hee-jun, he was focused on enhancing joint efforts in boosting economic ties and cooperation for peace here on the Korean Peninsula.
President Moon Jae-in is determined to boost economic cooperation with Southeast Asia to achieve mutual prosperity, evident during a series of bilateral summits with ASEAN countries in Busan on Monday. At his summit talks with Thailand's Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, President Moon said he looks forward to expanding the two countries' partnership in various areas, including science technology.
태국은 우리 정부가 추진 중인 신남방 정책의 가장 중요한 협력 파트너입니다. 국방과 방산, 물관리, 과학기술, 인프라, 인적 교류, 협력 등 다양한 분야로 양국 간 협력이 확대되길 기대합니다.
And with Indonesia being the only Southeast Asian country that South Korea has established a special strategic partnership with, the president shared with Indonesian President Joko Widodo hopes to raise trade volume to $30 billion by 2022.
양국은 이제 서로에게 꼭 필요한 나라로 공동 번영을 추구하고 있습니다. 지난해 교역 규모는 200억 불에 도달했고 세파 협정의 최종 타결로 양국의 교역이 더욱 활발해질 것입니다.
South Korea's trade with the Philippines is also seeing a steady increase. During his talks with President Rodrigo Duterte, President Moon highlighted the fact that they reached $15 billion of trade volume last year. They will work together to sign an FTA deal next year while continuing their partnership in infrastructure and energy. With all three nations having diplomatic ties with North Korea, they actively exchange their views on the developments surrounding the Korean Peninsula. The leaders of Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines all agreed to keep supporting Korea's drive for peace and denuclearization. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News, Busan.
Now let's turn our attention to the ASEAN-KOREA CEO Summit, which took place on Monday. Business leaders and government officials exchanged insights on the past 30 years of cooperation and the next decades to come. Our business correspondent Kim Hae-sung files this report from Busan.
Ways to boost cooperation and foster co-prosperity between ASEAN and Korea. That was the key theme of the CEO Summit on Monday, attended by over 500 government officials and business leaders.
Korea-ASEAN relations are at their highest point since dialogue was established 30 years ago. Bilateral trade is expected to reach $200 billion by next year. The global value chain is changing rapidly amid growing uncertainties. We look forward to the signing of the RCEP deal to expand economic cooperation between Korea and ASEAN.
Bilateral trade has increased 20-fold from $8 billion in 1989 to $160 billion in 2018, and ASEAN is Korea's second largest trading partner. During the 3 sessions of the business summit, participants, including renowned investor Jim Rogers, emphasized that Korea and ASEAN will drive global growth in the coming decades, given the relatively low debt in Asia compared to other parts of the world and a young population providing the labor, capital, and demand to drive growth. Business leaders pointed to establishing a regional industrial complex and coming up with joint technology standards as ways to boost synergy between Korea and ASEAN.
We would like to have more cooperation of the Korea with the ASEAN in the high tech, in startup, in innovation, in high value added industry and services. I think the Korea have the advantage in this own of this field, and the ASEAN we have the labor resource, and we have good policy to support innovation.
While the past 30 years of cooperation was mainly in investment and the manufacturing sector, participants said cooperation should now move further into services and startups, including driverless cars. To do so, people-to-people exchanges between businesses and education institutes, a clear rule of law, and policy consistency will be key. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News, Busan.
The Culture Innovation Summit was also held at BEXCO on Monday. President Moon Jae-in emphasized the need for closer cooperation between South Korea and the members of ASEAN on that front. Also in Busan for us is our Kim Mo-kyun.
World-renowned content producers gathered at the 2019 ASEAN-ROK Culture Innovation Summit on Monday on the sidelines of the ASEAN-KOREA Commemorative Summit. Some 600 people, including President Moon Jae-in and his counterparts from Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar, were in attendance. During his welcoming remarks, President Moon Jae-in stressed the need to work with Southeast Asia to foster cooperation in the cultural sector.
한국이 같은 문화적 정체성 위에서 아시안 문화 콘텐츠의 동반자가 되겠습니다. 아시안과 협력해 글로벌 문화 시장 진출을 모색하고 미래 세대의 상호 이해와 우정을 깊게 다지는 문화 교류의 협력 플랫폼으로 발전시켜 나가겠습니다.
The Korean president vowed to hold the Culture Innovation Summit on a yearly basis and create campaigns and organizations aimed at boosting cooperation in the film and culture education sector. A total of 5 speakers have been invited to speak during the forum, including big hit entertainment CEO Bang Si-hyuk, the producer of the leading K-pop stars BTS, as well as Netflix CEO Reed Hastings and the head of IME Entertainment Group, Brian Chow. The speakers in general spoke of the role of the Korean wave and 5G and AI technologies in developing the contents industry. SK Telecom CEO Park Jung-ho and animation director Pierre Coffin also delivered speeches on their experiences and ideas to create contents that can be shared by the global community based on Korea and the ASEAN countries' own cultures. The Blue House says that the ASEAN-ROK Culture Innovation Summit reveals new potential for growth and provides a blueprint for practical cooperation between South Korea and the ASEAN nations. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News, Busan.
Now, Monday was a busy day at BEXCO, which, as you've been seeing, was the is the venue for the grand gathering. Many special events were held to keep participants and visitors occupied when they had a little bit of downtime. Our Hong Yu takes us around the convention centre to give us an inside look at the summit venue.
With so many different summits and side meetings happening at BEXCO this week, the International Media Center is where both local and foreign media from Southeast Asia and further afield have set up camp. Here at the International Media Center, around 2,000 reporters are on standby to cover the key events of the summit, which more than 14,000 people are expected to attend.
Today, I cover the Culture Innovation Summit, where President Moon emphasized cooperation between South Korea and ASEAN nations to take their joint culture to the global level. It's a busy schedule.
To secure the safety of delegations taking part in the events, security is tight. Fences have been installed on the sidewalks around BEXCO, and the guards are allowing only those that have registered passes to enter. An unmanned patrol vehicle called HR Sherpa can be seen along with police on electronic transporters patrolling the area. With a wide range of special exhibitions such as the Korea Grand Sourcing Fair also taking place in the convention center, many guests from ASEAN countries were here to introduce their companies to new customers.
I'm from Vietnam and I work for one of the biggest IT company in Vietnam. We're here to show our digital solution and our capability in IT services.
Participants from all over the world have come here with high expectations over what can be accomplished at this event. Hong-yu, Arirang News, Busan.
South Korea will expand development partnership with ASEAN countries to promote peace and prosperity in the region. Seoul's Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa attended a signing ceremony of the nation's official aid agency, which sealed an MOU with Cambodia, Laos, the Philippines, Myanmar and Vietnam. Along with key officials from those countries and the Secretary General of ASEAN, Kang inked the deal specifying core areas of development in infrastructure, ICT, smart cities, agriculture and transportation. Over the years, South Korea has designated 6 ASEAN members as key partners, allocating more than a fifth of its foreign aid to projects in that region. Now, as South Korea and ASEAN continue to deepen their ties, strengthening people-to-people exchanges is also high on the agenda. Now, this includes youth leadership programs to help talented women and girls contribute to the region's economic and social development in the years to come. Oh Se-young has this report.
Sharing skills and culture, young women from South Korea and Southeast Asia are helping each other grow as strong, competent females in their respective societies. As part of a university exchange, students from Seoul Sungmyeong Women's University visited Laos and Indonesia this summer to help their local counterparts develop ICT and leadership skills.
We help them develop apps based on the Android and Arduino platforms. I think that to come up with practical, useful solutions for women, we need female developers in IT all over the world.
While preparing for a presentation together on solving social problems, we were able to brainstorm and narrow down ideas together. I enjoyed this the most and got to know the other students better as well.
Local students came up with ideas such as baby monitor apps for working women in rural areas.
This is my first time to learn exactly new skill about ICT. I love to see how technology can invent things to reduce the problem.
By transferring practical skills to raise digital literacy and encourage entrepreneurship, the program aims to help women find jobs and advance their economic status.
Since 2016, about 1,300 students took part in our local training. We aim to promote women's empowerment and capability building of female talent who will contribute to the social-economic development of the nation in the age of the fourth industrial revolution.
The program is also focused on female empowerment.
The women need ICT training or leadership training to make the student more confident and to challenge every issue that will face in the society. So we even though our body weak if compared to men, but spiritual must be strong.
Launched in 1992, the UniTwin Network brings universities together and promotes gender equality and women's participation through media and ICT. At a recent briefing ceremony held in Seoul, executives of leading universities from Cambodia, Indonesia and Laos expressed their willingness to deepen their cooperation with South Korean universities. As South Korea and the 10 ASEAN member states deepen their ties through the Special Commemorative Summit, people-to-people exchanges and talent nurturing programs are expected to grow significantly. 오수영 Arirang News.
Time now to take a look at your markets, and Wall Street rose on Monday after China signaled it was addressing some of the biggest sticking points in the path to a trade deal with the United States. Let's pull up the figures for you. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, that was up 190 points, or almost 0.7%, to just over 28,000. The S&P 500 rose 0.75% to 3,133. The Nasdaq jumped 1 1/3% to 8,632. South Korean stocks, they also rose on Monday. The benchmark Kospi added over 1% to close at 2,123. The tech-heavy Kosdaq jumped more than 2.1% to 647. On the oil markets, Brent and WTI both rose by 0.5% and 1/3%, respectively. Now, let's shift our focus to the SeoulTokyo Intel Sharing Pact, which was extended late last week by South Korea. Now, you might have assumed that would be the end of it for now. However, you'd be wrong. It's proving to be a controversy that's rather hard to shake. Japanese officials declared the deal as a one-sided win for them, with no concessions made on trade, and also strongly denied it, apologized to Seoul for its obvious distortions of what are clear and documented facts. Shin Se-min with the details.
In a readout to reporters, South Korea's senior presidential secretary for public communication again confirmed that Tokyo did apologize to Seoul for the controversy Japanese officials created by claiming that the Jisomya decision was a total win for Japan. South Korea's presidential office was responding to a report in the Japanese daily Yomiuri Shimbun, quoting an official at Japan's foreign ministry as denying that Japan had apologized to South Korea. According to Seoul's National Security Director Chung Eui-yong, the day before, Japan made an apology after Seoul filed a formal complaint over the distorted way Japan made the Jisomya announcement. Chung had also expressed grave regret over Japan possibly having leaked details about Jisomya's extension before it was announced last Friday. And he added the Japanese Trade Ministry exaggerated what it got out of the deal by claiming it had made no concessions at all. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga doubled down on that Monday, saying the export curbs were completely unrelated to Jisomya and that Japan did not apologize. Nevertheless, the South Korean government is clear that it will handle diplomacy with Japan in a principled way. Seoul's trade minister, also on the sidelines of the ASEAN summits in Busan, said the administration will work to speed up the hosting of a policy dialogue between the two countries over export controls. No end in sight, it seems, as to back and forth between the two neighbors on who said what and what was agreed. On top of the warnings already established, the South Korean presidential office is firm that everything depends on Japan's attitude in future negotiations. Shin Se-min, Arirang News, Busan.
Pope Francis met with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in Japan on Monday before delivering a speech calling for the abolishment of nuclear weapons. Lee Seung-jae with the details.
During a sit-down with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on Monday, Pope Francis called on world leaders to find solutions to conflict through dialogue.
History teaches us that conflicts and misunderstandings between peoples and nations can find valid solutions only through dialogue, the only weapon worthy of man and capable of ensuring lasting peace.
On Sunday, Pope Francis visited Hiroshima and Nagasaki two cities hit by atomic bombs during World War II and emphasized the importance of communication, saying dialogue is the most powerful weapon to ensure lasting peace. Nuclear weapons are a sensitive issue in Japan given its history. The Pope's reference to dialogue being a solution to world's nuclear issues seemed to point towards the lack of progress in resolving North Korea's denuclearization and North Korea's proximity to Japan. In response, Abe said his government's goal is to rid the world of nuclear weapons.
We have the mission to lead the world without nuclear weapons. This is my unyielding belief and the determined policy of Japanese government.
Pope Francis re-emphasized the importance of dialogue when dealing with nuclear issues, saying it's the only weapon worthy of man and capable of ensuring lasting peace. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg has resigned from his post as the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action to focus his attention on running for the US presidency. According to the UN spokesperson, on Monday, the billionaire businessman sent a letter of resignation to UN Chief Antonio Guterres on November 11th, nearly 2 weeks before officially announcing his bid. The 77-year-old announced his candidacy on Sunday, saying he's running for president to defeat Donald Trump and rebuild America. His entrance comes just 10 weeks before primary voting begins. Now, greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere hit a new record high in 2018, surpassing the average yearly increase of the last decade, according to the World Meteorological Organization on Monday. Concentrations are showing no sign of a slowdown, let alone a decline. The latest report by the UN agency says the biggest contributor to the increase is carbon dioxide, a product of burning fossil fuel. The report added that the long-term trend means severe impacts on climate change, including rising temperatures, more extreme weather, and sea level rise.
Good morning. The cold snap will ease today with temperatures hovering way above the seasonal norms in most parts of the country. Meanwhile, those in mountainous regions in Gangwon province will need to be extra careful on the roads this morning. There has been over 10 centimeters of snow in some parts, and we are forecast to see 5 to 20 millimeters of rain on Jeju Island through the mid-afternoon, and that's due to easterly winds. Busan, where the ASEAN-KOREA Commemorative Summit is underway, is waking up to a rainy Tuesday, but the rain will let up in the morning with the sun peeking through, and temperatures will be around the same as yesterday. And for a closer look at today's temperatures, Seoul is beginning the day at 2 degrees. Busan is having a low of 9 degrees Celsius. Daily highs will get up to the double digits, Seoul at 13 degrees under lots of clouds, while the rest of the country will see fair amount of sunshine. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for views around the world.
Well, that's where we're going to leave the news and weather for now on this Tuesday morning here in Seoul. We'll be back live at 9 a.m. Korea time for our ongoing coverage of the ASEAN-KOREA Commemorative Summit in Busan. So until next time, goodbye.